We're all guilty, at least some point in our lives, of getting caught up in the crosswaves, even euphoria, of the myth of the magical other. This thing which is very pervasive in pop culture. All you have to do is watch a television show, a movie, just about any movie. Can be a Disney movie, can be an adventurous action drama, cartoons, music, where you tend to have a theme somewhere in the narrative of someone who's lost, lonely, looking for a way to feel better about themselves, and they find everlasting love through a romantic partner. The thing about all this pop culture and romance is that TV shows, movies, Disney, they all conveniently end at the point where the couple finds themselves, enter into this whirlwind romance, and live happily ever after. Of course, you don't want to know what comes next. But people like to believe that they can find someone, and if they can just find the right person, they can satisfy that person's needs, that person can satisfy their needs, and they can keep that going forever. And that's one of the biggest drives, motivations of people today. People spend inordinate amounts of time on dating apps. People spend a lot of time trying to find the right person. And when they're not trying to find it, they daydream about it. And it can take a lot of maturity and years of life experience before you start looking for happiness in the right places. More people seek meaning and perpetual happiness today through relationships than all of the other sources combined. Whether it be religion, personal interests, wealth, fame, addictions, adventures. Today, people are really caught up in thinking, oh, if I just found the right person, then that would make me happy. And again, being constantly misled by what you watch and hear doesn't help. There's a psychologist, James Hollis, who refers to this phenomena where people seek the perfect match. And James Hollis calls that the magical other, end quote. And if you think about how times have evolved, there are certain things that used to give us meaning, certain things that used to give us purpose, connection, this form of positive enmeshment. Things like family, religion, community, group interests, people with similar backgrounds, this social capital that would build. All of that's quickly eroding. It's not the same as it was 20 years ago. It's not the same as it was 40 years ago. It's not the same as it was 100 years ago. And a lot of that is being substituted by people thinking, oh, I just need to find the perfect match. But of course, people need to find something to make them feel better, something to make them feel happy. Of course, people are not going to refrain from pursuing something that they think is meaningful. And a lot of times that comes through romance. But living in the fantasy that there's one person out there, your soulmate, who has the ability to heal your wounds, your trauma, your dissatisfied life experience, to help you realize your dreams, and to put you into that blissful place where you're living this blissful life. Thinking somebody's going to satisfy your needs, even the unspoken ones. And that's one of the key things. People often think, oh, I want somebody who knows me inside out. I don't even have to say anything. They'll do something for me that I want without them saying. They'll say something to me to make me feel good, even without me knowing what it is. In fact, people who approach you like that and make you feel that at the beginning, when you meet somebody who you've known for days, weeks, maybe even months, and they seem to know what you're thinking, they seem to do just what you want and say just what you want to hear, they tend to be the most dangerous people out there who are putting on a mask, who happen to be able to read you well, because that's what con artists do. But a lot of times we create our own traps, inviting con artists in to manipulate, control, and harm us. And then we like to blame them without thinking, oh, we were the ones who are looking for this magical other because we've no longer been able to find meaning in the more traditional ways. So all of that leads to disappointment. And people suffer disappointment after disappointment until they become a bit weary, jaded. But there's this theme that no one seems to want to accept, that happiness cannot be found in another. But the best you can actually strive for is to find happiness in yourself, and then you find someone who compliments you. But then people think, but what is happiness within? A lot of people don't like to hear that. They don't like to think that because they can't feel happy on their own. And if you're telling them that they have to find happiness within and they can't find it on their own, they think something's wrong with them. So they become resistant to that. They start projecting back outwards. They don't want to hear what you have to say. And it makes them look even harder for the magical other. And sometimes these people develop toxic traits themselves to try to enslave people to get their needs met. So, pop culture, all the influence out there, people are being trained to mislead themselves. They're being trained to think in a way which isn't entirely or at all accurate or real. People prefer to live in a fantasy that can never be crystallized, materialized, than to accept actually they have to shift the focus and look for happiness in a different place. I mean, seriously, can you think of just one movie, one song, one show where the theme is not somehow centered around unrequited love or a relationship gone bad, where feelings of things like longing, hope, betrayal, heartbreak are not somehow at the forefront in the context of romance? It can be quite hard because that's what people like. Oh yeah, I should add drama to that. People like drama, chaos. But of course, not everyone falls into this deceptive way of viewing the world. And not everybody is deceived as to where the source of happiness really is. But I would say a large proportion, probably most, they do get stuck in this misled vortex space for most of their lives, maybe. For some people, their entire lives. Certainly a big part of it, where they try to find happiness in the wrong places without realizing if you find happiness in yourself, then you tend to invite happy things and happy people that are a good match to you. And this might apply most to those who, growing up as children, had unreliable, insufficient parental love. Perhaps those people who didn't get their emotional needs met growing up are the ones who suffer most from this fantasy way of thinking. The perfect match, the perfect other half. And no one wants to hear the term or the expression, don't trust your instincts. Don't trust your impulses. But if you've suffered severe childhood trauma, probably because your emotional needs were not met as a child growing up, well, then there is one message that I have for you, which you should hear loud and clear, which is be careful about trusting your instincts and be careful about trusting your impulses, because when you're acting on those impulses and instincts in a place of being emotionally deprived, then you're actually taking actions and decisions which will perpetuate that. So you're basically inviting more of the same. And it doesn't mean don't ever trust your instincts or impulses. Just understand where you're coming from. If you're coming from a place of feeling deprived, extremely needy, depressed, and you feel like you barely have your head above water and you want to make a decision to feel a little bit better, just be careful where that's leading you. But if you're in a more relaxed place, in a place of being a bit more steady, and you get impulses and ideas of what to do, who to talk to, then maybe that's more reliable. Just understand the emotional influence you're under when you get these ideas. Because most people who've suffered some severe form of emotional deprivation growing up have a tendency to perpetuate it. So I hope some of that resonated. And if not, I hope you enjoyed anyway, and thanks for watching to the end.